Hello, fools. I'm Deidre Woolard, an editor over at Millionacres, and I'm here today with Austin Allison, who is one of the co-founders of Pacaso. And you've probably heard Pacaso being buzzed about. We've talked about it on the site. It's gotten a lot of attention because of Spencer Rascoff and also because of you, Austin. So let's just dive right into it. Give us a sort of brief overview of what Pacaso is.
Yeah, you bet. So Pacaso is a new category of second home ownership that we describe as co-ownership that empowers people to buy an eighth or a quarter or however much meets their needs of a home and enjoy true home ownership benefits, but for much less cost and hassle. And just to add one more thing to that, to frame up the problem that Pacaso solves, second homes are historically underutilized assets. Most second homes sit vacant 10 to 11 months per year because most second home owners only use their home 5 to 6 weeks per year. Meanwhile, there are tens of millions of families who aspire to own second homes, but are unable to due to reasons of cost or hassle. And Pacaso was created to solve that problem.
Well, that's interesting because last year was certainly so different in terms of how people thought about second homes. I started hearing this term co-primary homes. You've probably heard that as well, with people, working remotely or their kids, schooling remotely. So do you feel like that's impacting sort of Pacaso's growth trajectory at all?
I think it's certainly related, but the broader theme that's impacting Pacaso's growth trajectory is that most people who have some discretionary income are thinking about second home ownership right now. And frankly, even before the pandemic, when you survey our target audience, which is currently people with more than 150,000 in household income, when you survey that audience, you'll find that 3 out of 4 families aspire to own a second home. So even pre-pandemic, this was a dream that many, many people shared. Post-pandemic, I think what has happened is the desire and the level of interest has intensified. So we're seeing an increase in, home prices in second home markets. When you look at home prices, in general, they've increased about 14% nationally. In second home markets, they've increased 19% nationally. Similar trends you can see on the inventory side of things. We're in an unprecedented seller's market. Inventory levels were already low before the pandemic, and they've decreased by 27% year over year. And then again, when you look at second home markets, you'll see like one thing that we like to look at is mortgage applications, because that's a pretty good indicator of how many people are trying to buy homes in a particular market. And we've seen mortgage applications increase by almost 100%, so almost double year over year. So I think the net of it is you have more families during and post-pandemic that are going to have flexibility, whether that's permanent work from home flexibility, part-time work from home flexibility, or continuing to work in the office, but now in a new culture where there's more flexibility. Most people have more flexibility, and therefore the idea of being able to use a second home is more feasible than it ever was. And that is presenting a tailwind for Pacaso's business.
Interesting, because I think you're tapping into a couple trends. One of them, of course, is the demand in luxury markets. We saw it last year in Aspen, in the Hamptons, all places like that. But the other thing I think you're tapping into is that idea of turnkey. And I think that's really important for a lot of people. And so with Pacaso, are the homes turnkey, and what are the fees involved related to that sort of like kind of hassle-free ownership model?
Yes, Pacaso homes are turnkey. And one other interesting detail about second home owners, and this plays into the turnkey question, is when you take that 75% of people who I mentioned that are interested in owning a second home, and you go one level deeper and you ask them, what is preventing you from owning a second home today? About 50% of them say cost. They either can't afford the second home or can't afford the second home that they want. The other 50% say justification. They may be able to afford it, but they can't justify owning 100% of something that they're only going to use 10% of the time. And therefore they're happy to pay Pacaso a modest fee to provide a co-ownership service. So to answer your question about fees, we charge 2 fees primarily. One is a service fee that we charge upfront, which is 12% of the real estate or of the total purchase price. The second fee that we charge is an asset management fee. And for these two fees, we do everything, almost everything that you can imagine, from setting up the LLC to aggregating the buyers to marketing the property to state-of-the-art interior design and furnishings. We pay all the bills. We help consumers to resell their Pacaso sales at some future date in partnership with our real estate agents. It truly is a full stack offering in exchange for those two fees.
Interesting. And so it's not really an investment offering as much as it's an asset that will sort of bring you joy. Is that how you see it?
Correct. It's not an investment offering at all. In fact, if somebody's looking for an investment, there are lots of other real estate opportunities for that. This is for owner occupants who are looking to purchase and own and occupy these homes for their own personal use and enjoyment. That being said, that it's real estate that you're purchasing, right? So if the real estate goes up in value, the real estate goes up in value. And the owners of these Pacaso homes own 100% of the homes once they're fully sold. Pacaso retains no ownership. So if the real estate were to go up in value, and you were to sell your Pacaso share at a future date, you would benefit from any capital appreciation associated with the underlying real estate. But I wouldn't think of it like an investment. In fact, there are no rentals allowed in Pacaso managed homes. So it's expressly prohibited. This is for people who intend to own and occupy these homes for their own personal use and enjoyment.
Perfect. And it's not like the old fashioned timeshare either, right? It's a different model than that.
Yeah, it's very different than the resort timeshare model. The biggest difference is very obvious, which is the asset class itself. Most of the resort timeshares that you're buying into are on resort properties, number one, and they're hotel or condo like assets, number two. These are true residential single family homes and residential neighborhoods. So unlike the resort timeshare where you can generally go rent the same hotel room through the resort operator's website, with Pacaso, your only alternative is to buy the whole home. So we're essentially an alternative to whole second home ownership, or I guess the one other alternative that's probably a closer analog is do-it-yourself co-ownership. So like if you and three of your friends or family members decided you wanted to own a house together, you could certainly do what Pacaso is doing on your own, but it's a real headache. It's full of risk. It usually ends in a lot of frustration and tension between the friends because there's so many little decisions that need to be made along the way. And Pacaso eliminates all those hassles.
Yeah, going into real estate ownership with friends and family can be a little risky. So in terms of the how long someone owns the residence, is it so it's just completely up to them and then people can sell their shares as they go along?
It's completely up to them, subject to one small difference, which is there is a 1-year minimum hold period that every Pacaso owner is obligated to honor. And then the only other thing that's different when reselling a Pacaso when compared to reselling a whole home is there is a right of first refusal for the other owners in the co-ownership group. So let's say you wanted to sell your share, you pick your price just like you would in the normal home, you pick what your sell price is, and then Pacaso will then notify the other owners in the ownership group and give them a first right to buy for your price. If the other owners choose to not purchase, the Pacaso share just gets listed like a normal property. We partner with local real estate agents on every transaction. So it would get listed with a local real estate agent, syndicated through all the common real estate channels, and also listed on Pacaso.com.
Excellent. So I've seen that you bought in Malibu. I believe you bought in Napa, the Hamptons. What's next? What other markets are you looking at?
Yeah, so right now we're in about a dozen markets that are mostly focused on the West Coast. And over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, we will be expanding from the West to the East. So by the end of the year, you can expect Pacaso to be available in a representative base of markets that are reflective of top second home destinations around the country. And then shortly thereafter, we plan to expand internationally.
Excellent. So you just had a $75 million funding round. I saw in the press release that Pacaso has now hit unicorn status, which means it's valued at 1 billion. And that was a very fast ramp up to that valuation. What does that mean for you? And what does that mean for the company?
Yeah, so we did just raise $75 million at 1 billion, which brings our total financing to 90 million, or just over 90 million. And the most important thing that it means for the company is that it empowers us to achieve our mission at a higher level. And our mission is to enrich lives by making second home ownership possible and enjoyable for more people, which is really, said differently, that's about democratizing access to second home ownership. So with this funding, we get more capital to invest in expansion and growth of the business. So we'll be investing in things like new market expansion, increasing awareness of our brand, adding heads in various markets to support the growth. And it also means a lot of new, really great people that will be joining Pacaso. So the round was led by Dana Settle at Graycroft. Dana is a world-class investor. But in addition to Dana, there's several other world-class investors who participated, including Sukhinder Singh Cassidy and Teresa Gao of the A Crew Diversified Capital Fund, Jeff Wilkie of Amazon, and many others. So it's really a great list of new investors that will be joining the company. And we're really excited about what the funding offers in the way of horsepower to go fulfill the mission in a bigger way.
So what is the average price per share on a Pacaso house right now? And is there any idea to is it always going to be around the same price, or are you going to try to experiment with different ranges?
The average or the range of Pacaso share prices is between 250 or so on the low end to around $1 million on the high end. Right now, our inventory is quite luxury and quite high end. As time goes on, we're going to be adding a lot of new price points in a lot of new markets to make the Pacaso home prices available to a much broader audience, consistent with our mission. So if you fast forward a year from now, you can expect to see a lot more Pacaso homes that are in the $100,000 to $300,000 range.
So the idea eventually is to make this available for more people. So let's talk about where do you see it in 5 years?
Yeah, so in 5 years, I think that you'll see that the vast majority of our homes will be of our Pacaso shares will be in the $100,000 to $200,000 range is my best guess 5 years from now. That being said, we will continue to have these super luxury homes as an option because the Pacaso model appeals to a broad audience. Whether you're a family that makes $100,000 a year and lives in a more affordable market with some discretionary income, or a family that makes $1 million a year and lives in a more expensive market, within that range, one common theme that you will hear is that people aspire to own second homes. And the thing that prevents them from owning second homes in most cases is either cost or justification. So Pacaso solves both the cost and the justification problem by providing this new category of ownership that makes it really easy, regardless of whether you make 100,000 or 1 million, to realize that dream.
And how do the owners determine who gets to spend time at the home at which time? There are problems around holidays or things like that?
So Pacaso has created a really innovative software that we call Smart Stay. And from the owner's perspective, it's just available through an owner app where you can pull up the app on your phone. You have your own calendar in your Pacaso home, and you can block time in that calendar with as little as 2 days notice or as much as 24 months. But on the back end, the Smart Stay technology is distributing those requests equitably across the ownership group. So the net effect is that everybody gets, a little bit of all the times throughout the year. So you're going to get some holiday time, some peak season time, some off peak season time. Clearly, you're not going to get 100% of the holidays because you don't own 100% of the home, but you're definitely going to get, about 80 to 90% of what you want out of the calendar. And people are generally very happy to make that trade because they're saving 80 to 90% less cost and 100% less hassle.
Interesting. Thank you. So just to wrap up, I was curious about why why this as a company for you? Obviously, in the past, you created Dot Loop before. You're a successful entrepreneur. What is it about founding this company that's so appealing to you?
I'm a big believer that all businesses should be started to solve a problem, and that all founding entrepreneurs should be passionate about the problem that they're solving. So Pacaso is solving a problem that I'm really passionate about, as was Dot Loop. In the case of Dot Loop, I started that company because I was a real estate agent and I was driving around town, feeling the pain of paper transactions, and I was inspired to solve that problem. Similarly, I had an experience with second home ownership that was quite analogous to that. It was about 7 years ago now. My wife and I became second homeowners in Lake Tahoe. Prior to that moment, we had only dreamed of being second homeowners because it's, expensive and out of reach, and we didn't have the financial means at the time to really pull it off. But, a series of circumstances came together and we were able to stretch and buy this home, and it fundamentally enriched our lives. We became part of the local community. We met new friends. We established these rituals that are now really important to our family. We made a lot of memories and continue to make a lot of memories in that Lake Tahoe home. And it fundamentally unlocked this dream that we had been thinking about for a long time. So from that very moment in 2014, I've always wanted to find a way to make this dream possible for more people. And the other part of the problem, beyond the fact that it's very inaccessible, second home ownership of the past is a reality for the top 1%. And Pacaso is going to make it a reality for the top 20% of the world. But the other thing that really resonated with me about the Pacaso problem is the underutilization of these assets. I've always been a passionate enthusiast for efficiency and better utilization of things, which is why Dot Loop was about better, more efficient transactions. Well, it's just terribly wasteful and unsustainable to have homes that sit vacant for 10 to 11 months a year. So I saw this opportunity where you had a lot of people on the demand side who were interested in owning a portion of a second home, and a lot of supply in these homes that are sitting vacant. And the idea over time just came together as being really obvious. And Spencer and I shared a lot of those similar passions, and he and I always wanted to work together. So that's really how Pacaso came about.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now I'm just curious, where did the name come from?
So Pacaso, as it sounds, was inspired by the late artist Pablo Picasso. And the reason why, we spelled it differently, obviously, Pacaso, because we wanted something that was our own, that we could ultimately own. But we were quite inspired by Picasso, the artist. And there were a few things about his work that inspired us. But the one that's probably most relevant to what we do is he created this style of art called Cubism, which was about taking all these individual pieces and bringing them together to create this collective whole that we know as a Pacaso. And that's effectively what Pacaso, the company, is doing. We're aggregating groups of owners to come together and create this beautiful masterpiece, which is a co-ownership syndicate. And so we felt that it was really analogous. It also, has a really nice ring to it. When you tell somebody you own a Pacaso and, Miami, they look twice, and it provokes conversation. So we really like that about it as well.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Deidre.